Okay, so boys, we're going to continue with this question that we were doing over here. So our last line is g plus 7 over 4 all squared equals 73 over 16. So we're going to be getting rid of that squared there. So that means we're going to have two answers. So we're going over here, there's going to be plus or minus for the two answers. And we're getting rid of the squared, so we'll do the opposite operation, which is square root. Okay, so that's the line we've got. Now in the next line, this one you've got to think a little bit more about. When you're square rooting a fraction, you can square root the top and the bottom separately. So the square root of 73 we're going to leave as the square root of 73 because we have to keep this exact or insert form. And on the bottom, the square root of 16 is 4. So just write that as a 4. So the next line, we're going to bring over our plus 7 over 4 over to the other side to be minus 7 over 4. And then, because we have the same denominator here, we're going to put all of this into one fraction. We're going to keep that denominator of 4 and put the minus 7 plus or minus root 73 all on the top of the fraction. Okay, so it's just like if you were doing something like 3 over 4 minus 1 over 4, you would be keeping the 4 and working out that top part. Okay, so it's the same sort of thing as that. All right, next question we're doing. We're solving 3p squared plus 2p minus 8 equals 0 by completing the square, and we're giving our answer as decimals this time to 2 decimal places. Okay, so we're starting with the first line. We're moving our number to the other side to get it out of the way. Then this is one of the harder questions, remember? So when you've got a number in front of this p squared, we do not want that there. So we're going to divide every term by 3 to get rid of it. So all these 3 terms are going to be put over 3. This will cancel out now and just give us p squared, which is what we wanted. Just slide out the 2 over 3 up front, so it's plus 2/3 p equals 8 over 3. So now we're trying to find this bracket. So this will be a p, so that p squared will give us that p squared there. Then remember, we have to halve that number. So you need to get your calculator and halve 2 over 3. So you can say a half times 2 over 3, or you can say 2 over 3 divided by 2, because dividing by 2 is the same as getting a half. If you do that on your calculator, you'll get this to be 1 over 3. Okay, so we're looking at our next line. So remember, we're squaring this bracket. Square the first term, you get p squared. The product of the two terms is plus 1/3 p. Double it, so just double the number part, and you'll get plus 2/3 p. If you're not sure, just put 1/3 times 2 in your calculator. Squaring this last term here gives you plus, square the top, 1, square the bottom, 9. Or you can use your calculator if you like. So you can put 1/3 squared in the calculator and it will give you 1 over 9 if you use your calculator. Okay, so we've got 8 over 3 over here. So we look at this line, see how it changed. We have a plus 1/9 here. So we're going to put plus 1/9 on the end here. Now we're going to take this left-hand side back to the bracket square. And then over here we're going to use our calculator to work out what 8 over 3 plus 1 over 9 is. And it gives you 25 over 9. Okay, so to finish the question off, we're getting rid of our squared here. Remember, there's two answers, a positive and a negative. And the opposite of squaring is square root, 25 over 9. And we're left with p plus 1/3 here. Now, if you like, we can just work this part out because we can square root the 25 and we can square root the 9. So let's do that now. So the square root of 25 is 5 and the square root of 9 So now we're going to take the 1/3 to the other side. That will be minus 1/3. And then you can split these two up, one with the minus and one with the plus. And you can use your calculator to simplify this down. This one will end up being -2, and this one over here will be 4/3. Okay, the question said give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. Again, this was one of a number of questions. I don't know why they particularly asked it on this one when they could have just said give the exact answers, but we'll do what they tell us. That's not a decimal, so we won't bother with that one. This one, if you write it as a decimal, is 1.3 recurring, but they want it correct to 2 decimal places. You can imagine if there were 3 3s up here, that would be 1.33, and that's your answer. Okay, the next few questions we're doing are actually easier than all the ones we've just done. I wanted to start with the stuff that was the hardest. These ones are at the beginning of the exercise, and we're just filling in the gaps here, completing these statements. So all you need to do for these questions, they're basically trying to get you to form the brackets we've been looking at. Okay, so we're looking at this bit here and trying to get what's in the bracket. So they've done the first bit. So they're going, well, x squared is going to give you x squared. We want to know what number goes here. In front of this is a 1. So just get your red pen and write a 1 there. If there's no number, it's a 1. And remember, when we're getting that number there, we actually are halving it. So if we halve 1, we're going to get a half. So then you need to expand this and see what we get over here. Square the first term and you get x squared. Get the product of the 2 terms and you get plus a half x. Double it and you get plus 1x. So we've got that. And the last bit is to square the last term. So a half squared gives you 1/4. You can square the top of the fraction, square the bottom of the fraction and get 1/4. Or you can put a half in a bracket squared on your calculator and it will give you 1/4. So that one's done. We're looking down here at this one as well. So they've started you off. Remember to go from here to here, we're halving the number. So you want to halve 7/2. You can do 7/2 divided by 2 on your calculator, and that will give you 7/4. Then to get back to here, we're squaring this last term. Square the top, 49. Square the bottom, 16. Or you can use your calculator to do it for you. Okay, we've got another question to go here, which I'll write up in a minute, so after I get rid of this one. Okay, now this question here does not tell you to use completing the square, but you would be silly not to complete what we've been working through with our answers on this question. So if you looked at this and went, well, they didn't say complete the square, so I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to expand that bracket, and then I'm going to make everything equal to 0, and then I'm going to factorise it and solve it, or if that doesn't work, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. You'll be there for a while. Okay, so what they've actually done here is they have jumped into that line there. So they've given you something very similar to this line. So all we're doing is basically going from there. Okay, so if you have a look at it, we're going to get rid of this square. There's no need to be expanding. That means we're going to get positive and negative square root. 2 answers, positive and negative. The opposite of squaring is square root. 21/2, and then we're going to move the positive 1 over here to be -1. And the question question said give your answers in third form, and you've just done that. And we can't simplify that. Root 21 would just be root 21, root 2 would just be root 2. There's nothing else to do. You could separate your answers, one with a minus and one with a plus, but that's fine to leave it like that. Okay, we'll try one more of those. Okay, so again, the quickest way to do it is to get rid of that square. We're going to get plus or minus square root over on that side. 71 over 4. And we're left with this, e minus 3 over 2. Next thing, we're going to actually try and simplify this first. You could do it later, but I can see it can be done now, so we're going to do it now. Root 71 on the top, just leave it. Can't do much with that. But root 4 on the bottom, the square root of 4 is 2. So we're going to write it like that. So now we're going to bring across our 3 over 2 to be positive. Whoops. Just make sure that root 71 is completely on the top. Just turn this around a little bit. Okay, and there's just one last line. Because they've both got a denominator of 2, we're going to put all this in one fraction. Because the simplest answer, I'll just move it over so you can see it, but keep going with your equal signs under equal signs. A simplest answer is always the one with the smallest number of terms. At the moment, you have 2 terms here. If we can bring this into one fraction, we've got 1 term, and that's probably how your answers are going to be in the back of the book. So we're going to write it with a denominator of 2. They've both got that denominator, and copy everything else on the top. And that's the answer in third form, and we didn't need to expand it or anything, so those questions are fairly easily done. Okay, good luck with your homework.